Hey guys, this is Tom Paul Tipton, your host for the Exchange Podcast. We're coming to you from Living Water Church in Conway, Arkansas. I'd like to welcome you back to another episode and say thank you to those who support this podcast with your contributions. Please like and share us on Facebook and get the word out, and like, subscribe, and share us on YouTube. Send any questions you have and join in on the exchange.
Two-week break. That's all it was, I promise. Just a 2-week break for all of us. Things happened, cars break down, vacations, all those things,
Okay, I'll be honest. I had a car wreck. We did a podcast on August the 13th. I'll never forget the date. And I left here. I was headed home. And I didn't get plowed into. I hit somebody. I ran a red light. And so ever since August 13th, it's been an interesting time.
Canceled.
Man.
You committed a crime. But you know what you didn't do? You didn't run a kid over for being the opposite political party. This is our 2-week recap.
You know what? I would like to go back into the archive on that, because I am certain that after the red speech that Joe Biden gave, I said something to the effect that was going to be the outcome.
Yeah,
the fallout. You remember that?
Everybody did. You weren't. You said it on here. No, for sure.
That's what I'm saying. I said it on here. I'm not saying I was the only person predicting that. I said that on here, and
you said that on here, and other platforms. Other mainstream, other bigger podcasts, other many podcasts with any common sense. If your IQ is above room temperature, could realize that when you're president, because let's be honest. If Trump said something outlandish like that with the same setting, we have some pretty crazy people on the side of the right as well. So we're not saying it's just Biden, but when Biden does something like that, you have to call it out, because, again, I don't know if any of you guys know this, but here in America, you have freedom of speech to say things, but you can't say things like fire in a crowded room when there's no fire, and then if somebody dies, you're responsible for it. So when the president comes out and says, help me fight, help me wage war against...
Well, and he calls us the most existential threat. Yeah. And I say us because I wouldn't consider myself a MAGA person per se, because I'm not a Republican. I don't carry a Republican card. I am a MAGA person because I do believe that if you have a strong America, you have a stronger world. You have a weak America, you have a weaker world. And under Trump's policies, China and Russia both were being weakened. And now the opposite is in effect. So I do believe in making America great again. But at the same time, when you get the commander-in-chief saying that MAGA is the biggest, most existential threat in the country, that can only lead one place, and it's not good.
Well, for those of you who listen in, mainstream media did not want to talk about this because it's just it is very bad for anybody who touts leftist ideology. Because here's the thing, I've talked to leftists. They're not all unhinged.
No.
However, the unhinged leftists are the loudest.
Right.
And so... here's the story. This comes from the Kansas City Star, and it says, man admits to running over an 18-year-old after they had a political argument. Okay?
He was a 43-year-old man, too.
Yeah, he's in his 40s. Man admits that the kid, quote, that he was part of an extremist group, and he had to deal with it. He ran this kid. He didn't just run him over, Thomas. For instance, it's one thing if in the heat of passion I see the man who was harming my child, and I run him over. Yeah. This man chased this kid down, and imagine you're a parent. You get a phone call from your kid, no matter the age. You get a phone call from them, and they're yelling, begging you, hey, I don't know who this guy is. Do you know this person? They're chasing me with their car. Last thing you hear is that, and then come to find out they have now been killed by said man. And the man admits to the crime and is confused. I don't want my life to be ruined by this.
Right.
Well, hey, guess what? That kid doesn't have that life anymore. You ruined his family's life. You ruined his friend's life. You ruined everything about that child because you felt as though you needed to take actions in your own hands.
Right.
And you can't sit here and tell me that's normal behavior.
Well, here is what I think most people are waking up to discover is that whatever the left says that conservatives and people on the right are doing, they're actually doing. Let's go back to Juicy Smollett.
Juicy Smollett.
And he said that the MAGA people were the ones who found him and beat him up. And again, the whole, the left, the media didn't even hesitate for a minute to jump on that bandwagon and say that they were people that had been to Trump rallies and MAGA rallies and they were being influenced by. Come to find out, it was a lie. The difference with this is this guy runs this kid over, kills him, and basically says he didn't understand why he was being arrested.
Yep.
Because he was doing the country a favor. And this is the kind of stuff that this rhetoric leads to. I mean, when you're sitting there and you are making a enemy out of somebody, and make no mistake, this is the direction that they want to take the church. They want to do the same thing with Christians too, and because they always want to say that Christians don't believe in science. That isn't true, but they have been for the last 2 years saying that they're the party of science. And if you don't believe their science and you don't believe, Mr. Science, Fauci, then basically you are an enemy of the state. And that tends to be the common message of this ideology. I don't want to say the left or Democrat Party because they're not all that way, just like you said earlier.
I think that has to be said.
They're not all that way. But there is an ideology that lies on that side that very strongly believes that if you do not agree with them, that you're an enemy of the state.
Yeah, and it needs to be called out. Call out your own when they make mistakes like that. Don't try to cover it up with, because here's the thing, Thomas, when I researched that incident about the kid being killed in Missouri, when I say try not to cover it up, we know that tech companies are ran by people in California, Silicon Valley, mostly a predominantly left area. Man, you can't find this story when you originally look it up. I knew it because Timcast IRL on YouTube, they brought it to my attention. That's where I found it, from something on YouTube. It shouldn't be on YouTube. This should be national news, because here's the thing. Who was calling out Trump saying, we need to be careful with his rhetoric because if people start doing crazy things because of his rhetoric, he needs to be held accountable? That was the same media who's not talking about this. Right. They want to talk about the tiki torches and everything like that, which here's the thing. I, as somebody who voted Republican, because I am somewhat very independent libertarian thinking, but I did vote Republican. Yeah. I called out those tiki torchers. I called those things out. This is wrong. You shouldn't be. Yeah. I don't think. Listen, you have your right to freedom of speech, all that stuff, but I'm going to stand up and say, hey, this is dumb. This is not cool. You shouldn't be doing it. That's what people on the left should be saying, is someone lost their life because of the thinking that came from leftist ideology. Not only because he was unhinged, but it was because he was unhinged and he latched on to this ideology of we need to fight the terrorists who are these MAGA Republicans. Yeah.
Well, it goes back to an interview with Ed Snowden that he did on, I think it was on ABC, been a few years ago, and he talked about how that, and Ed Snowden is not a Trump supporter, not as far as publicly saying. He's never said he was a Trump supporter, and they asked him if he believed, was Donald Trump a enemy of the state, and Ed Snowden just kind of laughed, kind of in a smirky way, because he said, well, again, that's a matter of terms and definition, because he said, when our grandparents used that term, enemy of the state, they were talking about people that were enemies of, the state of the country, the government, their way of life. It would have been an outside source. I mean, obviously, they've always known that there's been internal threats, but they would have been referring to outside threats such as, communist Russia, now China, things like that. And that's kind of what most people think of when they hear the term enemy of the state. But they asked him, was he a national security threat? And again, that was his explanation. And so what he said was, he said, but when you actually look at the term national security and how they use it, they're not saying national security in the way you and I think about it. They're saying national security in the way that it is a threat to the agenda they're trying to drive.
Nobody likes that word, agenda, and it's so. And the reason why it sounds dumb is because gaslighting exists.
Well, it exists, and the thing is, it is an agenda. I mean, look. Every president has an agenda. I mean, think about it. That's what the whole State of the Union address is about.
Exactly. Here's what we're going to do. Here's our agenda of what we're going to do. And when you come out and say we need to fight the MAGA Republicans,
that's an agenda.
I just
it's a dangerous one, but it's an agenda. And so that's what when they say an enemy of the state, or they say a threat to national security, they're not talking about they're a threat to the country in that they are selling plans to foreign spies or foreign invaders or even internal terrorists.
Yeah, you name it, yeah.
They are talking about people that are doing exactly what you and I are doing right now.
Right.
Because what it's not just us, but I mean, Joe Rogan, Tim Pool, you
think of a bigger content creator out there. They're talking about it too. It's not just us small creators, and that's the thing. We are a small creator.
Because what we're doing, we're obviously, would we love to be at that level? Absolutely. But we're also trying to reach the people at the level we can, to bring awareness to the level that we can. But that is a threat to national security, because it's saying, hey, this is what they're doing, and pointing it out.
Something that I haven't done in a while, actually, but something that I've been doing is I've been reading through some of the old, everybody knows what Star Wars is, and if you mention Star Wars, everybody knows the movies. But what people don't know is that there's a huge library of literature written about the Galactic Empire.
Yeah.
And we all know it as this funny, lightsaber, chop, 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 blasters, pew, pew, all that type of stuff. But what the literature did was it expanded on what the Empire was. The Emperor had this thing called Comp Nor. And Comp Nor is a pro-imperial propaganda machine that was there to tell everybody, this is what you should say, this is what you should do. And here's the thing, there would be planets, some planets with small populations, where they would have little conversations of, well, I don't know, I don't think we should really have slavery. Boom, you're snatched up, you're gone.
Yeah.
You're an enemy of the state. Because even the smallest of conversations can create large crowds to have conversations, and those turn into riots, and those turn into overthrowing powers of evil, corrupt governments. I'm not telling you to go out and raise up an army or anything. I'm just telling you that's what the government is afraid of, and they should.
Yeah.
They should be. They should be afraid of those things. Everybody, what really blows my mind is seeing people on the internet defend things like $1 million companies or the government. People would say, "Oh, you're dehumanizing the people in government." No. When you become a public servant, you're a servant.
Right.
You serve us. And I'm not dehumanizing you, but you must know your place.
Right.
And your place is under our boot, not the other way around.
That's exactly the way it was set up. We were not, and we've covered that topic on here. We are not set up for a government to tell us how to think, what to do. Thank you, CNN. Thank you, Fox News. We are not told how to think. We shouldn't be. But I was actually having a conversation right before starting the podcast with somebody, and so many people are on TikTok, and
it's so mind-numbing. I got off of it finally. Don't worry, everybody.
Oh, so China's out of the question now.
All the angels rejoiced when somebody gets off of TikTok.
You got China out of your house. But I mean, what they're doing is, you've got these people that there was a video. I wish we had a way to play it so people. Well, we might be able to link it up to YouTube, and I'll get that so we can get that linked up. But this guy, he totally goes and trolls this town hall meeting, and he's got on this blue wig and a red shirt, and he's talking about all the pronouns and what he wants to be and why he's tired of having to explain it. And he's trolling these guys.
Oh, is it Primetime 99?
That's it. Yeah.
Primetime 99, man. Yeah, he's hilarious. He's good. He's good. Well,
and I think more of that should happen.
Well, what's great about him is that he went up to he went up to Eye Patch McCain, is what he called him. He goes, "Oh, look, it's Eye Patch McCain trying to put us in another war. Good job, you're doing it." Totally just embarrassing and rude. And here's the thing: he's the same guy who went up to AOC and said, "My big booty Latina, I love her, she's so pretty," all that stuff. And here's the thing, guys: decorum be darned. I know I'm not gonna say any bad words because we're in a church, but decorum be darned. These people, and by these people, I mean the government, the senators, the congressmen and women, the president, whatever, they should feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm coming for you. We're coming for you. Not in a physical way, but we're coming for your jobs.
Some ballot box.
And when the time comes, because you'll notice, COVID ended. And what's coming up in the next 2 months?
He said that
plain as day.
And I love how the White House always
The White House
goes,
had to backtrack and say, well, what he really meant. No, you don't get to say that. We get he's a senile old man.
He said
but
it's
if
over.
He said it, it's over. It's over. I'm done with it. I've already been done with it. But still, the thing is, people should feel uncomfortable when Primetime 99 shows up, okay? When Primetime 99, which, boy, that would be wonderful for views, but it'd be awesome to have him on the podcast because he just doesn't care.
No.
He just doesn't care. It's the thing is, at this point, he said it best on Tim Pool's podcast. When you watch your mother die in your arms, and you realize what the meaning of life is, then all the comforts of the rulers in the land, who cares? I don't care about your comforts.
Right.
Okay? At this point, I really don't, and that's the thing, is that these people who run the government, this isn't a conspiracy.
Yeah.
They don't care. What were they doing during the lockdowns? They were getting their hair done. They were doing their thing. They felt like they were royalty to do whatever they wanted.
Several of them got their hands slapped out of the cookie jar over it.
Exactly. And guys, listen, we're not going to sit here and talk for the next 30 minutes about bad things. Let's talk about good things that have happened in this country, okay?
The Queen died? Oh, no.
Well, no, football started, but actually on the same day. So, hey, listen, if you're an American...
She died on the same day football started?
She died on the same day that football started,
that's
baby.
That
is the most American thing. And it was half off burgers.
That's
half off
fake,
burgers.
Man.
Bro, that's the most American day next to July 4th, 1776, baby.
Football is specifically American.
Oh, yeah.
And so we kicked off the season, no pun intended, with the Queen's death.
Oh, yeah, she died. And if people are saying, oh, you guys are being rude, guys, they're royalty. What can we do or say that hurts them? Besides,
we fought a war in 1776.
We already kicked their butt.
We don't have to care.
I don't. And here's the thing. I was just telling my wife this. And she said, I thought you really liked the Queen. I said, oh, I thought she was a very interesting person as a person. She's a royal, though.
They weren't good people.
And listen, there's never been a better day for the... Speaking of Star Wars, at the end of Star Wars where the Emperor dies and the whole galaxy is celebrating? If you were on Twitter that day, you would have seen Black Twitter, Irish Twitter, Middle Eastern Twitter, Indian Twitter, American Twitter, at one time, in one foul swoop, cheering and saying, great, this is awesome.
Have you heard the rumors that... Is it King Charles? Is that who it is?
Yeah, her son.
That he could possibly do away with... I love... Look, we're going to go into conspiracy here in just a second. This is a free and open podcast.
This is a fun podcast. We got to come back with some jovial tunes.
there's conspiracies that he could and perhaps would do away with Parliament.
Wild.
And bring the monarchy,
the monarchy back. Yeah.
I don't see that happening. I don't see how that could happen.
I don't feel bad for anything the UK gets. I don't feel bad.
I don't
You
either.
guys literally cry.
Okay, so
you literally cry over a woman who sat in front of a golden piano when people were starving and dying. And she said, we need to have joy in our life or the Christmas season. If that wasn't the most disconnected video of it, and you know which one I'm talking about.
It's kind of like let them eat cake. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's legit. It's like you have people.
They never learn.
And they look over at us and they go, look at the colonies. They're doing some strange things by Joe.
It's like we're not.
You
and
know
that's
what?
the thing. It's like, man, we're not. We haven't been colonies since 1782.
You want to know something? We might be doing some crazy things,
but we're America.
But we get to choose to do crazy things. You know what I'm saying? If I want to blow my hands off from an M80, but then by golly, Miss Holly, I'm doing it.
Well, that's the so. I've heard that. I've heard, of course, he is extreme climate control. He is extreme.
Have you seen his fingers?
Great Reset.
Have you seen his fingers?
No.
Bro, look up his fingers. I'm serious. Look up King Charles' fingers.
This isn't
Photoshop. This is not Photoshop. Everybody who's listening, go and type in King Charles' fingers.
King Charles, I'm not there yet. Let's see.
Look like sausages, bro.
Well, they are.
What is that?
Wow.
Welcome to the we're making fun of the Royals portion of the podcast. Look at their fingers.
And there's that one picture where he's playing guitar. I don't know how he plays.
Yeah. He looks like a deli aisle, bro.
He does. Like, those are...
Here's the best part. When Oprah was interviewing Harry and Meghan Markle, and Meghan was talking about how the royals were racist, and Oprah being one of the elites, the elite elites, she gasped, "Oh no!" And the thing is, everybody's sitting at home thinking, "Really, Oprah? Don't play into that. The royals are racist." They literally had a conversation about what happens if Harry and Meghan's children come out looking black, because Meghan Markle is black.
That could happen.
And it's like, well, yeah, you guys are going to have to deal with one of your servants becoming one of your royals. It's tough. Tough.
It's kind of like that movie. You remember the movie, was it, what was that? King Ralph?
I have not seen that.
You not?
Uh-uh.
Okay, so it was a movie with, who was the guy that was in the TV series Roseanne Barr and...
John Goodman.
John Goodman. So the preface of the movie is that, to the best my memory serves, the royals are all taking a picture, and some kind of electric wiring hits into water, and they all get electrocuted.
Whoa.
So they go to look for the next person in line, and he happens to be an American that lives in New York, I believe, or Chicago.
God forbid.
Yeah, and he's like some kind of distant relationship. He's some kind of distant relation to the family, and so he's
my wife just entered.
He's a distant relation to the family, and so they go over and get him, and they make him king. And so the movie I haven't seen it in so long, I don't even remember it.
I just looked it up. Peter O'Toole is in it.
He is?
Interesting. Well, here's the thing, guys. Royalty be darned. We couldn't care less here in the States. It is your American duty to always remember the Queen's Death's Day and celebrate on it.
I've been celebrating that. Well, King George. That was, after that I just didn't care. I just now again, like I said,
isn't King George the one we fought against?
He's the one we fought against. That's why after that I just don't care, because again, I've heard the stuff that he's climate change guy. He's if you get into the whole Great Reset thing, I do think there is something behind that to a level, not necessarily the Klaus Schwab thing. Not denying that's not true, Not denying that's not true. We just kind of don't delve into that kind of stuff all the time here.
And you would be happy.
I mean, we don't. That may be something we delve into later down the line, just not today. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not saying I don't believe that's going on, because it is in some places. I mean, there are some places that have already gotten into it.
Next thing you're going to tell me is you believe the Earth's flat. Come on.
Man, I tell you what, I that's one that I really thought, look, if you ever get the idea that there's not a cause worth fighting for, just ask a flat earther. Just ask a flat earther. They will show you a cause.
Wouldn't you be happier if you believed it?
That the earth was flat?
Yeah, wouldn't you just be happier instead of getting a headache every time you talk to them?
My question is, why do we care?
Well, because people need something to believe in. Here's the thing. I'm not saying our belief in Christianity is on the same level, because I don't believe that. But to the world, it is. And so But I know Christians who believe in the flat earth. Okay, well, again, I'm not going to say anything, because if you know them, then you probably know them somewhat well. And I won't disrespect your acquaintances. But, and this is a big but, they may need to get checked out. Because I kid you not, I have not heard an argument for flat earth that wasn't A, super crazy, or B, just destroyed by empirical data.
Well, here's the problem with that. They deny the data. They just say it's all government. They say it's all government propaganda. When you ask them, well, what about the satellites in outer space? They just don't believe they ever went. They're out in outer space.
It always blows my mind, because telescopes were invented a while back.
Well,
and with telescopes being invented, those scientists, those discoveries were documented on paper,
Sure.
And so they said, oh, I'm looking into space and I'm seeing something like Saturn. And then they, I don't know if it was Saturn that was discovered. It was one of the planets that was near us. So Saturn's past the asteroid belt. So it was probably like Mercury or Mars or something. And they notate it down. And that's always going to be wild to me, is that these guys, with the technology being so primitive compared to us, they saw these things and they were round, and they go, oh, look, it's round. And then they realize there are different patterns because it was rotating, and the only time you see that is on a sphere. And so it's probably a sphere. We must be on a sphere. And, you have all these different moments in history.
Well, you can go all the way back to, his name was Eratosthenes. In 276, he lived from 276 to 194 BC.
What a great
so before
name.
Christ, right?
Yeah.
Greek mathematician who came within, it was something like 12 to 17 miles of the Earth's circumference, using a sundial to boot. Okay, so we've known this has been a question.
This is why humanity it's proven that we are just dumber.
And we are, and because I'm going, first off, why do we think we're the only planet in the galaxy
that's flat?
That's flat. How does that make sense?
And why is the moon a sphere?
Why is the moon? Why is the sun? I mean, it's like, I was showing someone a picture the other day, and it's the sun coming up, and it's out in the ocean. Everybody wants to talk about, well, we can prove it's not flat when you look, or it's not round when you look at the ocean, because the ocean doesn't bend. And until you get a sunrise. And then all of a sudden, as you notice the sun rising, there are certain curvatures there that would not be there if the curvature wasn't there. And so I'm going, why? I thought this argument has been settled time and time again, but no, it is not. It is in fact alive and well in 2022.
I love it.
And we've got one thing I would love to see flatten is inflation.
It's not going anywhere. Everybody was saying, see, the gas prices are going down. They're going down. You see them? And I said, give it a month.
Yeah.
Give it a month. And guess what? Guess where they're going back?
They're going back up. You know why? Because gas tax has to be put back out. And that's all they did is they removed the gas tax.
Look, the reality is we're sitting on natural resources here and in Alaska, but they don't want to touch it for reasons that are beyond me. Everybody who's listening, if you're a Native American, I respect you as a human being. But the reason I bring them up is because they're usually at the forefront of natural preservation. Now, here's the thing. We can't sit here and just allow a small minority of people dictate whether or not we can do with our country what we want.
Right.
The reality is we have so many natural resources at our disposal that it would cripple other countries because of our dollar. We make certain countries rich or poor because we go over there and we say, hey, we need natural resources from you guys. And they're like, all right, well, hey, here's we're going to jack up the price for you guys. Mm-hmm. I bet you didn't know this. You probably did, but those of you who are listening, the ruble is better than the dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ruble.
Definitely.
And if you think it's because, Russia's better than us, it is. They are better than us in that department. They have their own resources that they're selling out to people, outsourcing. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy to me.
Yeah.
It's insane to me. I couldn't care less about the conflict in Ukraine. You want to know why? Because it really doesn't bother us. I care to the extent that there are people dying. But the thing is, we need to fall back onto what the first and greatest president ever said was stay out of the affairs of other countries.
Right.
Focus on us. And people have gotten mad at me when I said, guys, we need to be a little bit like Japan and be so nationalist, and people don't like that, but so nationalist that our Navy is literally nonstop putting a blockade around our borders.
Did you just say nationalist in our face?
You know what? You're right. I will delete all of my social media and ostracize myself from coming up with a valid point of if our Navy is the best Navy in the world, no one's going to mess with us. So, and if they do, it's one of those things like mess around and find out type deal. So put our ships outside in the ocean, right next to our borders, and say, hey, you need to knock first before you show up. And after that, we let every other country do whatever they want. Okay, we focus on ourselves. This is an ideal world. You bring the jobs back. Mm-hmm. You bring the military back. Yep. You want to know what the military is good for at this point when they're back in the country? Living with their families, and then when we need them, calling them up to the big leagues. Letting them drill. Let them do what the National Guard does, but having that be a natural, normal thing because we are not in other countries. Because here's the thing. I don't care if Iran gets nuclear missiles.
Right.
You want to know what I have? I have a big screw you laser in the sky. That's the reality, is that we've had that. The Star Wars program, it's actually named that. The Star Wars program is not something that we just kind of, oh cool, it's named after. No, it's a real anti-missile defense system, and then we have other anti-missile defense systems.
Well, it's where also Israel we gave Israel a bunch of technology to build their Iron Dome.
Yeah.
And it came from our Star Wars system. And I think we got rid of our Star Wars system, didn't we, or did we not?
I know it sounds callous, but the thing is, I cannot care. I can't help people if I'm drowning. What do they tell you? What do they tell you when someone's drowning? Do you jump in with them?
Well,
no.
But here's the thing, and I think probably on a later podcast we'll talk a little bit more about globalism and excuse me, globalism has actually been the destruction of a president or two. One is Donald Trump. Now, when I say destroyed, I mean he could come back in 2024. But all this stuff that you're seeing go on is because he was America first. Abraham Lincoln was America first.
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln was assassinated physically. They are trying to character assassinate Donald Trump.
Well, Teddy Roosevelt was
another one. And so if you look at each and every one of those presidents, go all the way back, especially after, not so much prior, but after the Industrial Revolution. And thankfully we had the Industrial Revolution. I'm not knocking the progress that was made from that. But after the Industrial Revolution, if a president was America first, administration was fought against very heavily. And again, I think that's a spiritual issue. I will say it again. It is the spirit of the Antichrist that does it. But at the same time, it influences and uses people.
It is pretty funny that even a Democratic president like JFK, who was very much
knows what happened to him.
Yeah. You have people in this country who don't want to be associated with other countries, not because we hate them. Here's the thing. Just because I don't go over to my neighbor's house every day, every week, of every month, of every year, doesn't mean I don't like him. That's why we have, guys, listen, that's why we have the Olympics. Don't believe me? That's what the Olympics are for. The Olympics are for all the countries to come together and go, hey, here's our best athletes, here's your best athletes. And let's say it's going to be hosted here in the United States. Other countries would, there are certain people who make a living off of every 4 years. They come to the different countries that the Olympics are hosted in, and they sell certain goods from their country because
it's what the World's Fair used to be about.
Exactly. These things, that's good. But here's the thing. You mentioned it earlier, TikTok and social media. And yes, even these sites that we're on, they are a detriment because when you numb the idea of being connected all the time, it's kind of like if you saw your extended family every week. Yeah. It makes the reunions and the Thanksgivings less worth it because the reality is that I can be part of a group meeting in Indonesia with the flick of a button.
That's right.
And if you don't think people have been desensitized by all that, and therefore there's a piece of people, there's such a huge codependency as like a culture that we have to be a part of everybody's life, that we have to be a part of everybody's issue. Yeah. And I sit there and I think that is not going to be good for us because Biden has sent more money to Ukraine for their situation than he has for what's going on in this country.
Well, I mean, and we cannot go this podcast without bringing up what Governor DeSantis did.
We did say we were going to talk about some good news and some fun news. But hey, that was a human's right violation. How dare he send them on a vacation to Martha's Vineyard? How dare that man?
Well, and I bring that up as a parlay because you mentioned about caring more about what's going on in Ukraine. And the point is that, I understand we have to be involved in a geopolitical way somehow. But see, Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump, all these guys were America First presidents. And Nixon was America First president.
Yeah.
Nixon made some bad decisions with getting us off the gold standard, and then also not only that, but he also was it EPA? I think it was EPA. I think it's EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency.
Okay.
So it's EPA. He's the one who signed that into law, and that was something that the Democrats wanted. And he wanted to look like a president who reached across the aisle. Well, we've seen how the EPA has been the EPA has been a thorn in the side of progress in this country. Yeah. And see what's going on. One of the things that makes America very powerful and very successful is fossil fuels.
Yeah.
And so Jimmy Carter, he really started pushing clean energy. Look at what it did to the economy. Ronald Reagan wins in 1980. He gets rid of most of those Carter administration policies. The country started to grow. Then, you fast forward to even really George H.W. Bush. He was a globalist. Every time a globalist is in office, the country suffers for it. And that's where we are right now. But at the same time, while I believe we should push back, and I do 100%, I also realize that from a scriptural standpoint, it's kind of fighting. I'm not going to say it's fighting uselessly. It's not. But this stuff is all going to happen. It's going to happen somehow. How it happens is the question, but it's going to happen. And so Christ is, the Bible says that all kingdoms will be given to the kingdom of our Lord, or the kingdom of God. And, but does that mean that we just sit by and do nothing? No, we should do something. And that means vote. We need to, it's little over 40 some days now.
Yeah.
We need to overwhelm the ballot box.
Yeah. Something that I heard on a podcast, we reference them a lot. Timcast, they do a good job of just speaking the truth. I don't care what your political affiliation is. You go out, you get 5 friends, you tell them you guys are going to go eat pizza, and then boom, before you go to the pizza, go to the ballot box. Yes. It doesn't take that long. And then tell them, hey, look, quid pro quo, I will pay for all of the pizza. You just vote.
Yes.
And you don't tell them who to vote for. You just get people to register to vote. And have them register to vote and actually do their civic duty of voting. And look, if you don't vote, okay, that's fine. However, if you complain about certain things and you wish to see things change, we have to vote. That is the only thing we've got right now. I don't want anybody to go up in arms and cause any issues. I don't want anybody to cause violence or anything like that. Protest peacefully, but show them with your dollar, show them with your vote. We want a certain change.
Yeah.
And those of you who are listening, you're going to hear more of a conservative side, but I have a lot of friends who are liberals, who are leftists. I have a friend who's a communist, really thinks heavily into that, and they make some decent points. But government-wise, I just disagree with them on that. But so right. I want to, we've got about 5 minutes left. I wanted to point out that we've done some good things in the last 2 weeks, and the major thing is that we are on 7 different platforms now.
Yeah, it's growing.
Yeah.
The podcast is growing. And there is one thing that I do want to read. It comes from George Orwell's 1984, and it goes with what we're saying. He says, the party seeks power entirely for its own sake. We are not interested in the good of others. We are interested solely in power. Not wealth or luxury or long life or happiness, only power, pure power. We know that no one ever seizes power with the intention of relinquishing it. Power is not a means, it is an end. The object of persecution is persecution. The object of torture is torture. The object of power is power. Now do you begin to understand me? That is where many of the people that we're referencing here and that we're talking about here, they're only after power. It's not about, hey, they're destroying the country. They don't care. They don't care.
No.
They want power. And that's the reason why, and I'll say this, we have to be willing to overwhelm them at the ballot box.
Yeah.
So that nothing they do, if there were shenanigans that went on in 2020, and I'm sure there were plenty of them, but we need to overwhelm to the point that if they try anything, it doesn't matter.
Within the last 2 years, a lot of extreme things have happened. A lot of things that many people tried to say wouldn't happen. There are children at drag shows. Okay?
Right.
There is a push for abortion to be taken care of in a lot of states. Those are just some of the extreme things that are being talked about. And if any of those, and if you have a hint of disagreeing, go ahead and disagree with somebody and see how they react. And not just anybody, with 5 people. See what they say. And listen, those 5 people better be on the left, and you better keep your ears open to what they say, because I have been called every slur under the sun more often than not by liberals, because I have said I just don't think that's right. I just don't think whatever. I mean, look at Clarence Thomas. Look at the people who stood up for what they believed in. And that's the thing. Your belief system is not dictated by the color of your skin.
No.
It's not dictated by what class you're in. It doesn't anything like that. It depends on what you see to be true.
Yeah.
And so, like we said, today was was a very much loosey goose. We're just talking about.
We've been away for a little while, so it's just kind of hey,
it's nothing crazy, but we have some plans. Possibly an interview coming up in the next month or so. Keep your ears open for that, but also keep your eyes open on Facebook and YouTube still. But we are on Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and Apple Podcasts. The Exchange Podcast we are now on different platforms. We want to be able to we want to reach many different people in many different facets. And if you can't get us on Apple Podcasts, guess what? We're on Spotify.
We're on Spotify.
If you can't find us on Facebook, we're on YouTube. We have it covered. We want to make sure that you guys see us. This is not something that everybody decides to do. Anybody could do it, but we really want to show that we're grinding it out. We're trying to figure things out. Keep us in your prayers. We know that Thomas he's still looking for a battery, like he said. He was telling me for his car, and right now I have a back injury. If you guys pray for that, but something that I want to ask that you guys pray for is this church, and their ministry. We are still located at Living Water Church Conway. We're very thankful that they let us have our studios here at the church. Eventually, one day we might be out, but we'll never forget where we started.
Right.
So, Thomas, is there anything you want to say?
Yeah. Just reiterate, hit the like, subscribe, and share.
Yes, please.
Keep talking about it, because I've got, excuse me, I know we've got some listeners in, even different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And we want to continue to grow this. I mean, because basically what we're trying to do here is, number one, we want to get the gospel out. That's the bottom. We want to see as many people. We want to see people saved. That's what we want to see. But also, too, getting the message out of, hey, it's not hopeless. Don't give in to that.
Yeah.
Keep the faith, because there is always a brighter future when your faith is in God.
Yep. Well, I really appreciate you guys listening in, and we're very thankful to be back next week's podcast, next Saturday, and we'll try to get it up by Sunday. We really hope that you guys are staying safe out there. Go vote. Love you guys, and have a good one.